So Apple just released a new iPhone, and it's very different than what they've been doing lately. Is it actually worth $600? Today on the table to be unboxed, we have this iPhone 16e. This is kind of like the stripped down budget bare bones version of the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro. Before we can really discuss anything about this phone, we actually need to take a look at it. So let's go ahead and open up this box. We are off to a great start. There we go. And there she is. It is very interesting only seeing one camera on the back of an iPhone. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and set this off to the side for just a second and look at our one included accessory, which is a braided USB-C cable. Right away, my first impressions holding this iPhone 16e is that it is very, very light. It almost feels like an iPhone 14, but we gotta go ahead and do everyone's favorite part of a brand new iPhone. Very typical of Apple with this hello screen. I'm also noticing that the bezels are quite large compared to the iPhone 15 and 16 Pro. You might be able to get an idea there, but they're quite chonky. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick setup on this thing and we'll be right back. One of the things I'm already noticing is one of the limitations of this iPhone, and that is the lack of Wi-Fi 7 support. As you can see, it only sees my 2.4 and my 5 gigahertz network here. It does not see the super fast one that I have set up because it simply just can't support it. Siri, how's the weather? Hey Siri, send a message. Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes. Hey Siri, get directions home. Siri, play some music. I had no idea that that had sound. Wow. Every phone I've set up has been in silent mode because I restore it from a backup.
That was like a musical journey.
Oh, and we're already getting flooded with a bunch of notifications. I literally just bought this phone to make a video about it because it was so interesting to me when Apple announced it. It's very much an iPhone 14 with less features in most areas, but also more in other areas. I understand that this is supposed to be a budget iPhone, but after using the iPhone, Pro series for so long, this 60 hertz display actually is kind of painful because I'm so used to the ProMotion on the iPhone 16 Pro and all the other ones before that. But on this one, you're just limited to the 60 hertz. But at the same time, normal people aren't really gonna notice that. Like when my mom upgraded from an iPhone XS to an iPhone 16 Pro, she didn't really notice a difference between the 60 hertz display and the ProMotion display. You see how you can't really tell the difference between the two? That's because the video you're watching right now is 30 hertz. So you really got to think about how important 120 hertz is to you. Aside from the display on this iPhone, I actually do really like that they kept the matte glass around the back. And as I said at the beginning of the video, it's really weird to see an iPhone that only has one camera because, as you guys know, they've been doing stuff like this for quite a long time now. And honestly, it is kind of refreshing to just see the one lens on the back of this iPhone. It's kind of like going back to the olden days. Speaking of the camera, as you know with new iPhones, they come preset at 1080p for whatever reason, but looking in here, you can actually set it all the way up to 4K 60 and record HDR, which is, in a budget phone like this is actually a really cool thing to see. And you can also record spatial audio with this phone, which is something that I actually didn't know prior to getting one of these, but for a budget phone, that's another welcome surprise. Taking a look at the quality from this iPhone, it's actually not too bad, although I do notice a lot of wobble in the stabilization, and that's another downside to this phone is that it does not have sensor shift stabilization. Other than that, we're in a pretty well-lit environment here. It's not terrible from what I can tell just by looking at the phone screen here. We got Foxton chilling on the B camera over here. The skin tones are pretty good. It's pretty much what you've come to expect from an iPhone camera at this point. pretty decent. In photo mode within the camera app, you've got this HEIF Max button up here, and what that does is enables you to take 48 megapixel photos with this phone. That's also something you can do with the iPhone 16 Pro. However, something to note is that the iPhone 16 Pro has a much larger main sensor than this one does. And essentially what that means is the iPhone 16e will struggle a lot more in low light than the iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max will. Something special about this iPhone is that it does actually happen to have the first ever Apple designed and developed 5G modem. And essentially what that means is you get significantly better battery life. However, I think another part of that is the fact that there's more room inside the phone because this one does not have MagSafe built in. That's another kind of big drawback to this phone, is losing that MagSafe feature. But honestly, if it means that the battery can be bigger and you can get a better battery life out of it, I would say it's worth it, because on paper, this one actually does have a better battery life than the normal iPhone 16 does. Something to think about with MagSafe is the fact that most people just plug their phone in every night with a USB-C cable and just let it charge. Not too many people use MagSafe. However, that is something to keep in mind, that this phone doesn't have it, and it also could point to it being completely removed from the iPhone 17 lineup. I don't think it'll happen, but it is possible. In the coming weeks, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into this iPhone 16e here, but my first impressions of it are, for $600, I'm not entirely sure if this is worth it. Is this a viable replacement to the iPhone SE? I don't know, because the iPhone SE started at $430 and this one starts at $600. And when you're considering that price, you also got to consider the used market, because this exists, and the iPhone 15 exists, and the normal iPhone 16 exists, and refurbished iPhone 15 Pros exist, and refurbished iPhone 15 Pros can be had for cheaper than this one brand new. And objectively, the iPhone 15 Pro is a much better phone than this because it has that 120 Hz display, it's got MagSafe, it's got millimeter wave 5G, it's got Wi-Fi 6E, it's also got the better camera system, but better is subjective to your use case. And another thing to take into consideration with this iPhone right here is the fact that yes, it does have the A18 processor, but it's a dumbed down version of it. What you'll find in the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus is an A18 that has 5 GPU cores. This one only has 4. But at the same time, most people aren't going to make use of all those GPU cores anyway. So 4 realistically is probably more than plenty, especially if all you do all day is just scroll through TikTok. For right now, for just having taken this thing out of the box, I actually quite like it. I like the lightness. I'm not too big a fan of the size of it because I'm used to using the bigger iPhones, but I think the back of it especially looks really, really clean. It looks nice. It's a nice looking phone, but I wouldn't expect anything less from Apple.
All right, Foxton here. I'm just hijacking this real quick. I just want to say, Sam he knows a lot more than I do about iPhone stuff, but I really am kind of conflicted on this phone. It feels like a budget phone, and I don't know if it's in a good way. Me personally, I would just get a used phone. I'd get something that's the flagship or the higher end in the line and work with that, even if it's a couple years old. iPhones are supported for a long time. The average person is not going to notice the difference or really care. And so I say yes on this. If you're just getting in the iPhone scene, or you destroyed your current phone, or you really, really hate Android, if that's the case, you might need to get checked out. But this might be your phone. Otherwise, just get, in my opinion, just get a used previous iPhone. The iPhone 14 is kind of a slayer, I have to say. That's really the gist of it on my end. I'm just here moving the camera around. Don't listen to me. All right, have a good night, you guys.
Throughout the next couple weeks, I am going to be playing around with this phone, and we'll come back probably 2 weeks from today and talk about what I found. But for right now, that's really all I have to say. It's a budget iPhone that starts at $600 brand new, and it's lacking quite a few features, as I mentioned throughout this video. But anyway, though, guys, that is going to be it for the first iPhone unboxing of the year. Big shouts to Foxton for running my B camera over here. And until the next video, that is going to be it. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thank you for watching.